Silicon Valley's stumbling. Thousands of tech employees have been let go and more layoffs are on the way. What does it mean for the powerful tech industry and the economy as a whole? Joining me now, entrepreneur, podcaster, NYU professor of marketing, and the author of Adrift, America in 100 Charts, Scott Galloway. Thanks for joining us all the way from Munich, Scott.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Good to see you.
So you've been warning for more than a year of what you call the Patagonia vest recession. It's now here. We've been seeing a lot of layoffs in the tech space. How deep do you think it's going to go, and do you see that spilling over into the rest of the economy?
It's going to go, I believe it's going to go much deeper. If you look at the SG&A costs, if you look at the increase in hiring, I mean, keep in mind, Amazon hired 500,000 people in just 1 year in 2021. No firm had ever done that before. And a lot of these layoffs just take them down back to employment levels of 6 or 12 months ago. So while it makes for great headlines, it's more spectacle than significant. And the economy outside of tech, employment is at historic highs. As a matter of fact, as a percentage of non-farm payrolls, layoffs are lower than they were pre-pandemic right now. So it makes for good headlines. But the reality is employment across the entire economy is very strong. But in big tech, I think it's going to get a lot worse.
Gotcha. I want to switch to another tech subject. You've been talking for years about Twitter's mismanagement by Jack Dorsey, who is trying to run two companies at once. Now, Elon Musk is trying to run two companies, or three or four if you include SpaceX and Boring. Is Tesla at risk, and what's ahead for Twitter?
Well, I think it's already played out. I think the virus has jumped out of the Twitter lab and has infected Tesla. Tesla's lost 50% of its value, I think, in the last 4 months. So it was overvalued. People were looking for reasons to bring it down. But it's hard to imagine. I can't think, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you can, Jack. I can't think of another company that's gone from a $5 billion run rate to what is probably now a $1 or $1.5 billion run rate in the matter of 3 or 4 months. And that is the business that is Twitter right now. It's already the second worst acquisition in history, $45 billion for a company that's generously worth $10 billion now. So, yeah, it's absolutely already infected Tesla. It'll be interesting to see if it starts to infect SpaceX.
Let me jump to some more big tech. If you were writing the four today, I have to think Microsoft would be threatening to unseat Facebook. Now it turns out that artificial intelligence could kind of snatch Bing from irrelevance, no longer a punchline. Do you think that an AI like ChatGPT could make Bing a threat to Google?
I think you're zeroing in. I think that's a correct question, Jack. And even with a $10 billion acquisition with a $2 trillion market cap, that's a 0.5% dilution for the opportunity to sort of give Bing new life. I mean, Bing just isn't a word you hear a lot anymore. Right. So if they could create some sort of tangible differentiation, I'd be shocked if and when they integrate ChatGPT into Bing, you don't see Bing's traffic go up 20, 50, 70% that day. So it almost sort of says to me that still at the end of the day, what's old is new again, and whoever owns cloud and processing power and a front end, a consumer offering that's already sort of up and running, still have a lot of power.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what happens there. So I want to go to your new book, Adrift. You mainly explain sort of sweeping long-term trends in the U.S. economy using charts. But one of the points you make is really in the news right now. It's the debate over restoring funding to the IRS. We have some of your charts. We're going to put them on the screen. Can you explain or really sort of put this in long-term context for us?
Yeah, look, we need about 22% of GDP to operate our government. And so if you imagine people paying over $1 million or people making over $1 million and corporations paid on average 30% taxes, that means the rest of us would have to pay somewhere between kind of 9 and 14%. And I think people would be down with paying that. I think taxes should come down. It's just that everybody needs to pay them. Over 50% of corporate profits are offshored right now in lower tax domains. And very wealthy people above kind of 99% have seen their taxes go down. And one of the reasons they've gone down is that the threat of enforcement or the algebra of deterrence has gone down. You're much less likely to be audited. And you got to give the Republicans credit for representing the top 1% really well. Unfortunately, automation and technology has only resulted in greater audits for simple tax returns, which tend to be lower middle income people. And as the tax code has gone from 400 pages to 4,000, wealthy people's tax filings are increasingly complicated, which are more human capital intensive. And when you cut funding, what you're really saying is you're signaling to very wealthy people with complicated tax reforms that the smart thing to do is to cheat on your taxes. So I think it sends the wrong signal, and it's a zero-sum game. All it means is that lower middle income tax filers end up paying more.
One more question for you. There are very few areas of almost bipartisan agreement in Washington, of course, but one of them is the tech industry. Both parties have different specifics, but in a Wall Street Journal op-ed, Biden tried to bridge the gap with three basic concerns about tech. Did you see that, and what do you think of his ideas?
I think they make all the sense in the world. Unfortunately, the performance doesn't match the promise. We've heard about bipartisan agreement or desire to rein in big tech, but at the end of the day, we have passed no meaningful legislation, and we continue to see more weaponization of our elections, teen depression, anti-competitive behavior. So I'm not hopeful. I think their intentions are in the right place, but again, the music hasn't matched the words here. The performance has not matched the rhetoric.
Let's hope something changes. In the meantime, Scott, many thanks for your insights. Really appreciate it.
Good to see you, Jack. Thanks.